What's up, bookworms? Welcome to episode 91 of the Cantina Book Club podcast, where readers can find interviews with authors of all genres, trad or indie published. I'm Megan, self-proclaimed content queen, here to bring you insights from the authors themselves. Each week features a Cantina conversation with an author. Sometimes they're returning guests, sometimes it's someone new. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on an episode, and feel free to browse through existing episodes so that you could catch a previous interview about a book you finished. Just a heads up that I often use adult language to express my feelings towards these authors and their work, whether the characters need to get their shit together or I'm encouraging the badass FMC to fuck it all and burn the world down. Just please be mindful around listening ears. And also, it's June. Happy Pride Month to all who celebrate. Cantina Book Club is an LGBTQ plus friendly space. Keep an eye out on my social media for book suggestions if you want to support authors in the LGBTQ plus community. Check out previous interviews and keep an eye out just to see the next guest could be your favorite author or someone from that community. So happy Pride. For all of you Chicagoland and Midwest readers, I'm going to be a panelist at Books in Bloom, taking place July 11th and 12th at the Sonesta Chicago O'Hare in Rosemont, Illinois. The event is hosted by Chicago North romance writers. For details and tickets, visit chicagobookinbloom.com. I really hope to see you guys there. And as for new releases and recent releases, last week on June 10th, Catherine Ray released her latest book, The English Masterpiece. And if you want to listen to the interview that I did with Catherine or check out the book review, you could do so by visiting cantinabookclub.com or checking out the episode lists on your favorite podcast player, even on YouTube. Coming out on June 17th today is Mob Queen by Erin. I haven't had a chance to pick that up yet, but the cover looks really cool and the overall sentiment is pretty positive so far, so I'm excited to get into that. Today's episode features a chat with Kait Ballenger. We're talking about her book, Original Sinner. That book is available now. Such a fun conversation with Kait. We rambled on forever. I think I talked too much, to be honest, but she was such a good sport. It was so fun to talk to her about all the important themes that she shares and writes about in her book. Original Sinner, I really did enjoy this book. For the dark romance girlies, you're gonna love it. For the romance girlies who aren't sure about dark romance, I would say that there may be some points. It depends. It depends on your triggers. It depends on the tropes that you want to stay away from. But that's why the content warnings are there in the first place. But it was just a quintessential example of, don't judge a book by its cover when it comes to the authors, because while authors might write some disturbing shit, Kait was such a gem, not intimidating, not disturbing to talk to at all. And I'm so excited. I've already set an interview to talk with her again when she's got the sequel coming out. But without further ado, here is Kait. So today we've got Kait Ballenger. We're talking about Original Sinner. That book is available now. Kait, thanks so much for joining me today. This book was so fun and sexy and controversial at times, but I don't know. I see that as the juicy plot points of it and just the fun of it all, the character depth and everything you went with and how you developed the story and the characters and how all the levels of it. So I'm excited to dig a little bit deeper today.
Oh yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and thank you for all the kind words. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I know. It's like your baby and I know you put a lot of work into it and I could tell you had fun with it too. And yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, this was very much Original Sinner was definitely a passion project. It came at a time in my writing career when I was really just needing to do something for my own joy. And so that book was it. I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna write something that is just purely fun for me. And if people read it, great. If they don't, I had a fun time writing it. But then it ended up getting a really great response. So that's been amazing to see. And yeah, I've just had a blast with this book, and now I'm working on book 3 in the series currently, so I'm we're in the thick of it at the moment.
Yeah, you're in it. You're all about that universe right now. You're kind
Yes.
of
Yeah.
you're just I love it. I love it. Can you give a quick summary of the book? We'll try to be spoiler free, even though it's been out for a little while, just so listeners can follow along with the conversation.
Yeah, so Original Sinner is a dark York, very spicy, romanticy, and it follows Lucifer and the other seven deadly sins who are now billionaire celebrities in this god abandoned New York City. And the heroine, Charlotte, is running away from her ultra religious family and upbringing. And she ends up in New York City thinking that if she works for Lucifer's company, that family's never going to come after her. She's going to be safe working for the devil. But then she ends up getting caught up with Lucifer, right? Like, this is all on the back cover, so I don't feel like it's too spoilery that she ends up writing this really scathing press release about Lucifer because of course he is a lovable asshole of a boss. And then it gets leaked to the press, so she ends up having to fake date Lucifer, and so she's fake dating the devil, and further conflict ensues from there.
Yeah, it's like I don't envy her, but at the same time, I'm like, "No, that would be cool." There's some allure there to, like, fake
Yeah,
dating, "Oh, you're stuck with me now, it's part of to help your image," and but
yeah,
she's ugh, like, at
yeah.
least at first, she's
Yeah,
like
she's annoyed first, right? Like, she wouldn't have written such a horrible, scathing, like, press release about him if she didn't think that he was, like, a grade A jerk. But then ultimately, in true enemies to lovers fashion, they don't end up continuing to hate one another. But yeah, she's definitely upset about the fact that she suddenly has to fake date Lucifer at first, but there's some perks to dating a billionaire
yeah.
celebrity.
Yeah, yeah, I loved it. I just loved their little it's 'cause there is like a happily ever after love journey there, but it's the twist on the big picture of it. It's yeah, like if the whole story of Adam and Eve if and the fallen angel in the Bible, all those stories, if like they existed in present day, absolutely, they would be, like, true to form and a billionaire celebrities, and it totally makes sense that Lucifer would be like, "No, I don't have time for this shit. I don't
Yes.
like this doesn't." Yeah, and it totally makes sense where he's complicated and he's mysterious and he's just it's almost like, there's very few things that might be able to pull him out of that, and Charlotte herself and we'll get into it, but it's like the levels of it, like the layers of these characters where because she's like running away from something and she was raised to be like this good girl and then she's learning a lot. Oh, she's putting herself out there and she's not shying away from situations, from putting herself out there and she's being exposed to things that she's never had to worry about or thought about before. And so it was cool to see her take to that where she's like why am I not bothered by this? Why do I like this? Like, why does this intrigue me? And I was like writing notes as I was like progressing through the story and they become like a little more like unhinged. It was just like, it's like a bitch because you're better than that because you want to live your life. That's why he intrigues you. And he's like sexy and good looking and he's like rich and he's like she's trying to go off on her own and start a new life, but then it just doesn't end up as she would have ever expected. But she's not, yeah, you said like she's annoyed at first, but then she's actually, this isn't so bad. Like she's,
Yeah, yeah. Charlotte is definitely like on a major growth journey, both in this book and throughout the series, right? Like she's been sheltered in a very ultra Christian community all her life. So suddenly she's on her own. She's in New York City. She's working for Lucifer. Now she's fake dating the devil, right? She's having all kinds of experiences that she never would have had previously and like trying to make heads and tails of all that. So one of the things I think I love most about her character is that like she's starting out the story like a little meek, a little mild, but like she's coming into herself, like she's working hard to step into her power and break out of the things that she's been taught her whole life. And I think it's fun to see a female main character, right, presenting themselves in a I'm trying to be better and heal myself and know my own worth sort of way.
yeah, absolutely. And we'll get into that later because they're like just adding to the layers of it. It's just like navigating that growth and time, just like the juxtaposition of she's going a total 180. Like she's
Yeah.
literally went from growing up in I think it's arguably, I think one of the trigger warnings you use is like religious abuse.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah, and that could be she's totally got PTSD from for reasons,
Yeah.
and we won't, like, spoil all of it now, but she's totally got PTSD, and then she's just, "Oh, okay, so I'm going from very devout, strict religious upbringing, family, father, and then, oh, my first step into the real world, I'm gonna be working for the devil. It's like
Yes, yeah. Like she definitely takes her like rebellion from like against what like the way she was raised to the next level. It's okay, get it, girl. Like
and she's just, "You know what? I'm just gonna you're pushing me into the exact opposite of what you wanted me to be, and this is
yes.
I don't hate it." I don't
Yeah.
I'm not she it's and it could be arguably, like, maybe a little healing for her because she's, like, taking charge of herself, and she's not beholden to, like, these expectations. She's, like, exploring what she wants and being independent and exploring the type of what she enjoys, what she likes, not just inside of the bedroom, but outside of the bedroom too, where she's just, like, exploring herself, and it's almost like a coming of age, like a late coming of age, and just discovering herself again, who she is outside of what she's been, like, forced to be.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you use the term like coming of age, right? Because like it's true. I think that when like in real life as well, when you're somebody who's come from a very strict background or you've experienced a lot of trauma in your life, right? You have to rebuild once you're capable of getting away from that. And it does feel like a coming of age process. And I like that you also mentioned right about her like it almost being healing for her, and because that was very much like intentional. I was really trying to make it clear that Lucifer, as much as this is a dark romance, right, and he does dark romance hero things, and there's plenty of trigger warnings, right, at the same time I think the overall arc of their relationship is one that kind of moves toward both of them healing in different ways from their backgrounds. Because I always think it's fun that people are like, oh my gosh, you're putting this like girl who has this hyper religious background with the devil, right? And I'm like, but he also comes from a hyper religious background that he has rebelled against, right? Like, I'm like, so they have a
People
lot in
forget that.
common,
Yeah,
right? Like, if people
yeah.
forget that, like,
Because he is that's kind of where it's teetering where Lucifer is concerned, it's teetering on that, "Oh, okay, like, oh, little baby boy, like, what?" Like, he's vulnerable, but he doesn't, like there's vulnerable sides to him because he's, like, misunderstood, and he's had a shit hand kinda dealt to him too, and there's these preconceived like, people have passed judgment on him just because he's the devil. He's the one who fell from grace, and he was the one who tempted Eve and whatever, and so, there's people have preconceived notions about him, but then it's once you get down, like, beneath that, you have the capacity to be kind, and for some reason, he's avoiding that whole he's avoiding people figuring him out one way or the other, and
yes, yeah, yeah.
I love that side of him,
Yeah,
yeah.
I do think he's definitely avoiding the bigger feelings there. And that definitely I feel like changes over the arc of the series. We keep the dark side of Lucifer, but we get some vulnerability from him in book 1 and increasingly in later books and stuff as well. To just this series like definitely a romance and the fact that like they're happily ever after, but it does follow them for more than one book. I'm working on book 3, so it's been really fun to see both their characters' growth arc as I've been working throughout the series, because like I'm more of a discovery writer, so I don't necessarily plot in advance, so I get just as surprised as the readers do by like the things they're doing, and which is a fun way to work. And it's been, especially now that I'm working on book 3, I'm like it's really cool to look back and see the arc of them like over the course of the series and like where things have really gone.
So, how many books are you planning for in this series?
So I about Charlotte and Lucifer, I have just plans for these initial 3. Book 2 in the series, Wicked Believer, is coming out on September 9th. So that's later this year. And then I'm currently writing book 3, and that is tentatively going to be out in spring of 2026. I would love to write about the other sinners after that. We haven't talked much about them, and I love them as secondary characters. And so I have tentative plans that I might write about them, but it's still like in the works behind the scenes.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely there's definitely lots of potential there where you could just go and play around with kind of the same things of their it's the kind of like the outline is there just from their general the characters and who they are. And so you're building the world and you're focusing on one couple's arc, but then there's so much potential to follow up and build upon everything that you're working on. I love that idea because it could be tricky to build a love story or a relationship over multiple because like I was just interviewing another author, Anna Darcy, where she's an indie author, and where her romance, it's not just one book, it's three books.
Yeah.
And she was talking about how like the standalones, like interconnected standalones are just so huge, and especially like hockey romance or like sports romance and stuff like that. But like for her, it was just that's what reminded me of just stretching their whole relationship and love story over the span of three books. And so I imagine maybe that was like also a little tricky for you because I think with your background, you have a few other like published works, correct?
Yeah. So this is not my first
Yeah.
series. I started out many years ago writing for Harlequin, a series that at that time was called The Execution Underground. I've gotten the rights back on that series since then and republished it as
Oh, good.
the Rogue Brotherhood. And then I'm probably until now the original sinner is gaining so much momentum. Before this, I was probably best known for my Seven Rain Shifter series, which is paranormal romances where they're cowboy wolf shifters. So people knew me as that cowboy wolf shifter author for a while. And those were interconnected standalones, right? There was
Yeah.
a arc to the fantasy elements of the series, but there was a different couple each book. So up until this point in my career, I had been doing a different couple for every book, but I'd been wanting for quite some time to write a couple that their romance spanned throughout a multi-book series. And Charlotte and Lucifer were just the ones who ended up being the perfect fit for that, because I think that there's so much for both of them to unpack and also grow throughout the series that when I got done with book one, like I was fully convinced that I was going to go into book two and write about another set of characters. But then ultimately, like this idea for more about Charlotte and Lucifer just kept tugging at the back of my head, and I was like, okay, I have to like pursue this. And as soon as I did, I was like, no, this is the right choice. They needed more story and there was more going on here than I realized initially. But it is a challenge, I think, to sustain a romantic arc over the course of multiple books, especially like when you end book one with them already together, as I did. Without being spoilery, it's an AGA.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting. I will say, like, I I set the challenge for myself when I was working on book two, Wicked Believer, that I really wanted to be able to maintain the same sort of level of romantic tension in the book, but also show their relationship growth in like an authentic way. Because they're not going to ride off into the sunset and everything's going to be like rainbows and roses, right?
Yeah. They still got to deal with some shit.
Yeah, there's still some things they need to work out. And so figuring out what that was for each of their characters and how that fit into the greater like world building of what's going on with the fantasy elements of the series was really like a very difficult but also very fun challenge. As a writer, like I've been in this long enough that I like setting challenges for myself because that's how I keep this like fun and interesting. So it's been really cool to be able to do that, and I'm hoping that readers are really going to love what I do with book two. I can't, without giving any spoilers, I'm like, y'all are going to be happy with me, I think.
I mean, you set the tone, you set the bar, and it's kind of, I understand the pressure of it. I appreciate the struggle and like kind of the nervousness around it. But then you just take that anxiety, you take that nervousness with you and you apply it to your work. Cause then you're like, oh, the stakes are a little high and people have expectations. And, how do you maintain that momentum, but also keep raising the stakes a little bit?
Exactly, right? Like I feel like I always have to keep upping my game, and like characterization I feel is one of what I've always been able to articulate as one of my strengths as a writer, and taking that characterization to the next level by extending their romance and following them for more than one book was really exciting to me. But like you said about that anxiety, I had to just put it to the side, right? About worrying what readers would think of the sequel, because so much of how book one has been received, I think, is because I did have so much fun writing it. So I was like, I just have to repeat the process for book two. This has just got to be super fun to me. And so I did have a lot of fun writing book two. And I remember getting to the end of it. And then only once I had finished did the panic about, oh, this has got to be like good for readers set in. But I'm glad it happened that way, because I've been feeling that for a couple months now, because the book's been done for a while at this point. But I just had to actually do a read through of it as they were formatting and stuff for arcs recently, and it's past the developmental edit process. Everything's gone through, and when I went back and read through, I was like, nope, I'm happy with how this turned out. I think
Oh,
readers
that's
are gonna like
good.
this,
Yeah.
and it eased my anxiety. I very much had that "are readers gonna love the sequel" feeling, but reading through it again, I was like, no, I think they're gonna like this.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah. It's peace of mind for you, and then you can speak to it with confidence. Like you can,
Yeah,
like, when you're promoting and talking about it, and you could remain excited about it instead of being like, "Oh, I don't know, I hope." But no, you're like,
yeah,
"No, this
I
is
was
good."
definitely able to walk away from it feeling like I gave book two everything I had, and I'm happy with how it turned out. So I'm hoping that readers will feel the same.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait. And that September will come up like before you know it.
Oh my
Like
gosh,
it's
yeah, yeah. I like the fact that arcs are gonna be here, like the physical arcs are gonna be arriving to my house any day now, and I'm just like, what? I can't believe
yeah.
we're in a whirlwind.
That's hilarious. That's awesome. So, piggybacking off of, I think, some of the points that you made, I always like to ask about the research because this is it's a twist on a very well known story, very well known lore, and because like people, it's a fine line you have to tread whenever you like drag a biblical history and stories and into whatever, and the fact that you're adding a twist to it, and you're like, no, our heroine is just gonna like ditch religion, ditch the patriarchy, ditch like all of that and go off on her own and explore herself and re become reacquainted with herself in a new light. And then just in general, it's you're stepping on toes of what everyone has established already in their brains, whether whatever level of belief that they have. And so I want to go into like your how you approach the research, if you had to do any research. Was it anything like maybe you needed clarification on, or even if it's just like something as simple as like navigating dark themes or the settings that you put your characters into, stuff like anything fascinating that you learned, stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. I will say, as far as the religious stuff for the books, don't feel like I had to do a whole ton of research. No one will be surprised to know that, like, I grew up involved in the Christian church if they read this book. So I feel like those elements I already had pretty well in hand because they'd been forced onto me for a very long period.
You kind of know it way too well, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, and I also have a background like in English literature, right? So I'm familiar with Paradise Lost, right? Which is where like the true mythology of Lucifer as the fallen angel really comes from, right? People are always shocked when you point out that like none of that is actually in the Christian Bible. Like none of that background and story that we have about Lucifer being like God's favorite angel and then falling, that literally just comes from Paradise Lost, and it's become part of the like cultural lexicon.
Like,
And so yeah,
yeah.
it's become part of the canon for Lucifer as like a mythical character. I will say there was like minor like research into angel like classifications and demonology stuff of what I was going to name different demon characters or things like that throughout the series. But actually, the bulk of the research was really around New York City and the settings, right? Because I've been to the city many times and I love visiting there, but I do not live in New York City. And I wanted to make sure that it was believable to readers who do live there, and also my editor has lived there previously.
Oh, there you
Right,
go.
so I was
Yep.
like, I have to make sure that I'm doing this true to form. So I actually had a friend who was shocked to realize just recently that Lucifer's Penthouse is a real place, right? So 172 Madison Avenue is a real building in Midtown South in New York City, and it does in fact house a penthouse that is colloquially known as Le Penthouse, and it is 5 floors and all the sorts of description that you get from Lucifer's penthouse, like when Charlotte arrives, is basically like stuff that I've gathered through Zillow and like
That's
looking
so
at that
funny.
specific penthouse. And there's several other like locations in the book that people were surprised about too. I think that when Lucifer and Charlotte first start their fake dating journey, they have to debut to the press, and so they throw this big, hey look, this is my new fiance and like I'm debuting for the first time party, and they throw it at a place that's 582 Park Avenue, and that is an actual event venue that is a old church that has been made into an event space. So there's lots of small like details in the setting specifically that I had to really look into and make sure I was getting that. I wanted to make sure that it was like authentic and felt like New York City to the people who were
Yeah.
reading it. And I did actually do a signing in Brooklyn just a couple weeks back for the release at the Ripped Bodice, and I was really pleased that the ARC readers who had read early copies who came to the signing were like, this felt like true to New York City. And
Oh, yay.
good. That was the goal. That was what I was trying to do. So I would say most of the research was really into the geography. And because beyond that, as far as like the religion and the mythos and stuff, I was letting myself play, right? I'm taking a lot of liberties and like fantasy elements as it is. So I was like I know this well enough that if something's likely wrong, we're going to explain it away. But I think readers who are familiar with all of that are going to feel that it's all very true to form.
That's awesome because you also want to. It's not just like getting ideas of like kind of but it's also kind of like the feel for it. Does it match the vibe? Does it match like the glamour and the elite status of what's expected from New York, but also what the seven deadly sins like that their style would be like? What would they be into? What would their lifestyle be like? What would they have for like interior design? Like where would they want to live, and what would be acceptable for them to hold events and stuff like that?
Yeah. And so like getting into that a little bit, like there is a lot of like high fashion like references in the like series. So for those who haven't read, to give a bit of background, like Lucifer owns a company called Apollyon Incorporated, which is a luxury goods company. And I like to share, like, for readers as a behind the scenes thing, that his company is like loosely modeled after LVMH, which is Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy, which is one of the biggest luxury goods companies in
Yeah.
the world.
Yeah.
That was another thing that I had to do a fair amount of research about. And I am not somebody like of a socioeconomic status that I can be buying these insanely priced luxury brands.
I'm there with you. I'm like, it's a treat. It's a
Yeah,
treat,
exactly.
but it's not the standard. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I had to do a fair bit of research about that too, because I was like, okay, like I don't know this from Adam, right?
Yeah.
So I have to figure it out as I go. And so that has been very interesting, like researching things related to New York City fashion, the Met Gala, which is a big event in Original Sinner in book 1. So that's been an ongoing research project for the series as well.
I imagine that you got sucked into a couple rabbit holes, like just because
Yeah.
there is the allure of the high fashion, and there's a certain price tag of it all, and the expectations of the quality and the who's wearing what, why, and what's in season and all that. There's a reason why it's so as much as I'm like it is problematic, but at the same time I'm like I get it. I get the allure of it. I get why people refer to that as, oh, what's the next trend? They see these designs on a certain celebrity and they're like, oh my God. It's just there's something to it. I totally get it.
Yeah, and I feel like oftentimes, like, as much as I love like billionaire romances in general, I feel like they don't really delve into like the high society aspects of that, like what brands are they wearing, what are their lifestyles actually like. And so that was a really intentional part to hopefully make it a little bit more real as readers are going through the series. But there's also, it's funny that you mentioned that it's like it's problematic, because that was really the place of where I was coming from. Is I was like, okay, just not to get too political on the podcast,
Sure, yeah.
I don't think billionaires should exist. I'll just throw that out there. And so, like, the idea that the devil and the other seven deadly sins like came topside, I was like, of course they'd be billionaires, because billionaires shouldn't exist, right? And so that was really the place that I was operating from as the writer. And so I think like there's some of that in the series, in the but I think it comes out more, I would say, in the later books, because of course, like initially Charlotte, who has not lived a life that's of this like high level of income, is of course enamored by this, because like I it drives me crazy when I read billionaire romance and the heroine like ends up being doted on by this super rich billionaire, and she's, I don't want to take your money, and I'm like, clearly you've never been poor.
Yeah. It's like, I understand the discomfort, but it's no, this is your chance to appreciate the resources that are available to you.
Yes, like there was a point where when I had a friend who was beta reading, she was like, there this I hope for readers who have not read, this is not too spoilery. There's a point where Charlotte and her close friend Jax basically end up having a party at Lucifer's penthouse and trashing the place a little bit, and this beta reader and friend was like, I feel like that's so disrespectful. And I was like, girl, okay, for one, like he's got more than enough money that she can go shop on Fifth Avenue for however long she wants, and it's gonna be like $5 to him. And then on
Yeah.
top of it, he's got this whole staff that he's paying to clean up after him. Like he wouldn't care.
Yeah. No, if anything, he would like, yeah, I think that's like where he's a little bit recognizing, oh, like she's not shying away from it. She's like,
Yes.
it's because an added part of their relationship development where she's, and even I didn't get the vibe that she was like, oh yeah, fucking time to let loose. She was just like she had a couple drinks in her and she
Yeah.
was like, you know what? She had never had that freedom and that luxury before. And so of course she was gonna go a little bit wild. And she
Yes.
had her bestie with her who was like, yeah, fuck yeah, let's go. And I love that. That was like a little girl's dream, right? Like
Yeah, let's max
little
out
fan.
the Black Mastercard and let's go. Like,
Yeah, seriously, it's just, yeah, if I had an American Express card, like unlimited for a day, I might do something really similar. I
yeah,
might like shop for things and I might just like hang out with my besties and just fuck it. Let's just chill and be stupid because we're fine. There's no consequences and this is like our time to play. We're allowed to do this. It's like
right.
there's nothing wrong with legit taking advantage of enjoying yourself, and
Yes.
that's so cute that your beta reader was like, Are you sure that's not, like, disrespectful?" And it's like,
Yeah, and I'm
"It's
like,
fucking
it's fine.
Lucifer,
I
like, what?"
promise you it's fine. I'm like, I swear it's not like it's not an issue. And it's funny
He just
because
sees it like, "Okay, my fiance is she's enjoying herself, like."
yeah, exactly. And it's funny because so many like readers have mentioned to me that one of the things they love specifically is that she gets that time with the bestie and gets to just like we actually see them having fun together on the page, and like they have a real like legitimate relationship rather than just like the bestie in name only, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I so appreciate even we eat romance up. There's a reason why romance sells, and like we all love a good love story. And me personally, I love the spicy scenes, but I also appreciate the female friendships, the platonic friendships,
yeah,
which just shows that they have a life and relationships outside of the love story, where it's just
yes,
it adds depth to them, and it's just there's something to be said about that camaraderie and about that bond, about like the people who know you before your life was like took a total 180. There's something to be said about exactly like how those friendships evolve and support like her supporting her network, her support circle.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's appreciated and I love it. I love seeing that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was something that I really wanted to focus on in the series is I really wanted to make sure that there was examples of like women lifting up other women and like being a support network for each other cuz especially like with Charlotte's background where she's coming out of this like hyper religious setting that's very controlling, right? She's going to need those supports. Like she can't just be doing this all on her own. So it really felt realistic to me that she would have this network of other women that she's slowly building around her who are there going to be there to lift her up rather than tear her down.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's maybe except for greed. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
Try to agree, but yeah.
Greed is a whole other thing. So for those who have not read the series yet, Greed is Lucifer's only sinful sister, I will say. He has other angelic sisters that we will meet later in the series, but Greed is the only female among the seven deadly sins that are now living in New York. And it's not fun being the only female, poor Greed. But she holds her own and she's got a bad girl streak of her own going there and she's not necessarily the nicest person to Charlotte, but I think we see her in some ways not redeem herself later in the series.
I even in the first book, it was just I even though she was morally gray or like maybe leaning more on the less like the darker side of it and the more selfish side of it, it's she's greed. But then
Yes.
also like I was still yeah, girl power. I
Yeah.
was still
Honestly, like I love Greed as a character. Like every time she's on the page, like I enjoy writing her. I think she's just the greatest. And yeah, it was like I approached it as if she's Greed, right? She's gonna be a little bit selfish, and she's not gonna be apologetic about that, right? That's just who she is, and I love
she's like
she
tough
owns it,
love.
and she's
Yeah.
larger than life, and
Yeah.
she doesn't care. Like she's gonna throw down with her brothers and just put
Has
herself
to.
out there.
Yeah, it's just kinda like growing up with what, 8 like 7 brothers, 6 or 7 brothers, and she's the only one. It's yeah, of course she's gonna end up a certain way.
Yes,
Of course.
yeah.
It's kinda of course she's gonna yeah, exactly, and so that's why I was like, no, even though she was like she had unfavorable qualities, but I was like, "Oh, alright, let's see." I was like, "Alright, what's
I
she
I
doing?"
am one of those readers that is all for like morally gray heroines. I want women doing wrong in my books, and I love them anyway. Like, as much as I want to see the main female characters in the series working to build each other up, I'm like, yeah, give me a good, like, feminine villain who is just like owning her stuff and is not apologetic for what she's doing, right?
Nope. That's okay. I think even in I don't know, it just reminds me of because like I've convinced my husband to read Throne of Glass, and it's so funny to see like his trajectory. He's on Era of Fire right now. I don't know how familiar you are with the series, but it's so funny to like see his opinions grow and change. And but like the whole thing that I will always hold, the opinion I will always hold is that women know any of the women in that series is not to be trifled with,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
including the villains, including the bad ones, and it's just yeah, and it just doesn't matter what, it's like the non-magical ones, the magical ones, it doesn't matter, they're all, like, badasses and have their own strengths and play such a they're so important, and so it's funny to be like, because he goes to be he's like, "Those Iron Teeth witches be crazy." I'm like, "But"
And you're like, yep.
Yep. And I was like, "Okay, where you at? Where you at?" He's, "Oh, she gave Abraxos a little makeover. Good for him." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, yes." He's like slowly and I try to explain it because I don't wanna answer questions and accidentally spoil it. So a lot of the times I'm like, "You just have there's material you have to get through to get the things that you're wondering about."
Yeah.
Also, it's, "Did you get to this point yet? Did you get to that point yet?" I'm like, "What am I allowed to say?" And so that's just going off on a tangent about exactly I love I even if it's just problematic female characters, I will always I will always not necessarily forgive, but I will always like be so excited about the mess and
Yes.
the problematic behavior and the even if it's toxic and even if it's like I'm rooting for them either way.
It's funny that you mentioned Sarah J. Maas because one of my favorite unlikable heroines is Nesta Archeron from ACOTAR.
She's so controversial, but I love her.
Right? Like people get so mad about her, but I'm like, I love Nesta and I stand her, and like she can do whatever wrong she wants to do, and I'm here for it.
It
It's
really
so
is, but
good.
she was just such that's what makes her so because she's so relatable and she goes through it and she
Yes.
eats shit and she grovels and she goes through it and she earns like the love that she gets or and she of course like it's versus I would rather chill with her and the Valkyries and I don't know we haven't had Elaine's book yet but
Yeah.
it's like even then I like her more than I like Feyre and Feyre is a badass in her own right it's
Yes.
just like and I
Exactly.
think it's just people who like who haven't had who aren't a Nesta or who they have never had to deal with a Nesta.
Yeah.
That's where I feel like the people who are like, "Oh my god, I can't stand her. I hate her. She's so horrible and she blah blah blah." And it's you have not dealt with certain situations in your own life. And had family members who you love and care about who are exhibiting some of these like toxic behaviors. Like it's like
Yeah.
you're sharing more about yourself if you say you hate her. Like it's
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I felt the same way because honestly, I felt she, as much as I loved Farah, like I felt she was way more relatable. I was like, I have been a Nesta. I know I have been an asshole to people in my life in varying times, and I think being able to like own that and say, you know what, like I'm somebody who I've messed up and done like things I regret in my life, but like I've moved on and I've grown. There's a certain perspective that
seriously.
comes from that versus, well, I'm just Ms. Perfect.
And it's just and again, she had her himbo in Cassian,
Yeah,
but then she also had her girl gang and
yeah,
she went through it. Like she was yeah, she was at the bottom of the barrel and she was like on her downward spiral and then but then with the tough love, she gained strength and experience. She got sober. She had a reality check. She got her boy,
mhm,
her man, and she got her besties. And then
yeah,
she had to prove herself reluctantly multiple times and she had to grovel a couple times and it was a whole her journey is beautiful and I'm like it's okay to hate her at a certain point. I understand how people say
yes,
she's insufferable in like the first 3 books. I get that. I
yeah.
totally get that. But after reading Silver Flames and if you're still like oh god fuck Nesta I hate her then okay then we're not then you're in a certain category of reader like
Yeah, yeah,
it's
I
yeah.
feel that because, like, I really want to see like books where heroines are making big moves and like doing things that are risky or not always approved of. And I'm hoping ultimately that like Charlotte can get to a very Nesta-ish place eventually. She's gonna have to be the queen of hell. Like she's gotta be a little bit of a bad girl eventually.
And she's gotta just be unapologetic too. She's gotta in that role and be like, "No, reality, your man is Lucifer."
Yes. Like, how do you reckon with the fact that now you're with the devil?
I don't know. I would feel like that would put a little spring in my step. It was just like, oh, the step a little bit higher, my chin a little bit higher, be like, yeah, Lucifer, he likes giving me orgasms and what? Like, I would just hold my head up a little higher and but yeah, that's like what the beauty of her journey is, where before she never would have thought that she would have to step into that role. She never would have thought that she would have had to discover or own these parts of herself that she's not necessarily shying away from. She's tempted by it and she's exploring it and she's even reflecting like why am I not scared? Like why am I not shying away? And it's cuz girl, maybe this is where you belong. It's yeah. I love it. I love it. So, I'm going to throw this at you. Before that, I do want to touch on the we mentioned triggering content, sensitive topics, stuff like that. I kind of want to explore like how you navigated that and how you fit that in, whether it's like researching things or like listening to your beta readers and like the feel of it, or maybe you had to take time for yourself, like you had to have some self-care time to get out of the zone or in the zone and out of the zone of handling some of these content, stuff like that.
Yeah, I feel like it's a very careful balance to walk because when you're writing dark romance, you know that you're gonna be writing stuff that has things in it that's potentially triggering for yourself or other people. And I do feel like for me, like there were times where I was writing where I was very aware that I was like working something out, right? I was like, okay, like I just finished this scene. I was clearly working through some trauma when I wrote this. And I have to just step back and like just let it be what it's going to be at that point. But I was also conscious of honoring those elements for readers. I always want to make sure that like my books have very clear and like explicit trigger warning, content warning lists so people know what they're getting into. But I think also there's some element to dark romance where we're like pushing the line and seeing what can I make this character do while making you still like them. And you have to like frequently ask yourself like, is this too far? Is it not too far? And I would say a lot of readers at varying events have asked me, like, okay, if you're a dark romance reader, like, what's the grayscale for this book? And I would say that if you're a dedicated dark romance reader, I would say Lucifer's like Heather Gray, right? Like he's not super dark in comparison to some very dark romance heroes. But if you are a dedicated romantasy reader and you only dip your toes into dark romance, it's probably going to seem very dark to you, right? He's going to seem maybe closer to morally black. But ultimately, I think that I love a good redemption arc. And as I was writing the darker elements of the book, it was always a question to myself of, is this something that I feel like can either be justified, and I say that with air quotes, like to where we can understand why he might have done this, even if we don't agree with it, or ultimately that he can be redeemed from, that he can come back later and we can still like him and enjoy him as a character. And so I'm hoping that most readers feel that I was able to toe that line, and that became even more challenging as I've gotten further into the series, because like the stakes are raised, things get higher. What can he do that we will still love him, but it still keeps that dark romance feel? It has been an interesting line to walk. I do frequently ask friends who are also writers, okay, can you look at this scene? What do you think of it? Is this like too triggering? And we rely on each other in brainstorming for that.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah, so
Like
that's
you guys have, because you guys just lean on each other, and it's kind of it's your author space, it's your writer
right.
space. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that like when it comes to dark romance, as long as you're putting the adequate trigger warnings there that readers know what they're getting into, that they're agreeing by continuing to flip the page that this is something they're willing to like let you play with
Yeah.
problematic themes. But it is a hard line to walk, I will say. But
I remember reading your like your prep, like your content warnings paragraph, and I thought you did a really great job, because it's just, no, take care of yourself. This is just, I'm warning you. Like, I'm love that you picked up this book, but this is what it contains.
Mhm.
Just because I'm like, I don't know if it's just because of the I read so much, and I'm usually not into the dark romance stuff, but I get the allure of it. But even, I don't know, I think because I'm not really into it, I don't know the extent of it, because when I read yours, I was like, this isn't really that bad. It wasn't like, I think there was just a little bit of, I think maybe the triggering content would have been kind of like the dom and submissive stuff a part of it, where it's just like some of that language might turn some people off, but it's, you prepare them for it. So it's just, no, like, it's gonna go there. It's gonna go there. But because I was expecting it, and then I was like, all right, let's do this. Like, I'm ready. And yeah, it's really about preparing yourself and preparing the reader for it. And I think they're like that, yeah, turning the page is consent.
Yes. Yeah, at that point, like, you've got all the trigger warnings there. So if you keep reading, like, you know what you're getting into. And yeah, I will say that, like, for me, I'm like, some people are like, oh, Lucifer's so dark. And I'm like, is he though? Because, like, I read a fair amount of dark romance. And so, like, to me, he's
He's
on
a
the
grumpy billionaire.
right?
Like, what?
Yeah, I'm like, he's on the lighter side of the genre, in my opinion, for sure. I like, and as a dark romance reader, like I tend to not be able to handle the really morally black stuff. That's just not for me, because I still want them to be able to be redeemable. And at a certain point, you reach like characters where you're like, nope. Nope, like nothing. This guy can't come back from this. And I tend to read more toward the lighter side of the dark romance genre, where it's like they're morally gray, like the darker side of morally gray. Like, I get frustrated when people call like characters, like we've already talked Akotar, like when they call Rhysand morally gray, and I'm like, no, he's not. He's not even close to morally gray. I'm like, he's not even close. Not even close. He's a bad boy. I love him. I love a good bad boy character, but he is not morally gray. And so I'm like, and Lucifer is really like a character where I'm like, this is the start of the morally gray guys, and then like you can move forward from there.
Yeah, and I know it's just kind of because with Reese, I don't know. I totally get that. Where I think I was like, I had before before I picked up the book, my friend, I was like, okay, I'm ready to step into the Mossverse.
Yeah.
What do I start with? And she was like, Throne of Glass. And so I was like, really? Most people are like feral for Akatar. She's because everybody's Reese Sand. Don't get me wrong, he's fantastic, but start with Throne of Glass.
Yeah.
I was like, and it was just, and it's so I was like, when I finally got to Akatar, I was like, everybody's swooning over him, but he's trifling. And I was like, but I think that's like the extent that I went with. Okay, but then yeah, we learn more about his motives and his reasons. I'm like, I understand that he's daddy. He's not my daddy. I don't
Yeah.
swoon over him. But I get it. I get the attraction. I get like the swoon worthy moments and how his sense of humor and
Oh
all that
yeah,
and how
yeah, like,
but he had reasons because he's soft, he was hard. Like
right.
it was all he was caring so much about the people that were important to him. And so I don't see that with Lucifer. Like he grew up with his siblings and he grew up in such a harsh environment, like where things played out where he didn't, I would say almost he had no control over it, but like things played out how they played out, and he's just like going through life dealing with the aftermath of it. And
Mhm.
I didn't do this, but I don't care about clearing my name. Like he cares to an extent, but he's not like losing sleep over it. He's like just yeah, I totally get where you're coming from. Or like okay, where at on the spectrum do I want him to be? And then
Yeah.
it's like, how do I get that point across?
Yeah.
So I totally get it. Yeah. It's so funny. I'm going to throw at you two-parter. What were the most challenging parts to write? What were the most enjoyable parts to write?
Oh gosh. So one of the most challenging scenes to write without getting too spoilery is twofold. There's two answers to this. One is when Lucifer tells Charlotte that she's got to start fake dating him. So, per her employment contract, she ended up getting blackmailed into this. And that scene was really hard to write just because, since it's in Charlotte's perspective, I was feeling all the feelings with her. And she's just escaped this really controlling background with her family. And now all of a sudden, here is this billionaire asshole telling her that he's going to be in charge now. And that was a hard moment to write. I really felt for Charlotte. And then the other one actually was when they are just outside the Met Gala at the end of the book, and Lucifer gets out of the limo, and he's starting with I can't do this, Charlotte, I can't do this. And like, with that, we cannot tell readers who have not read it yet, like, what he cannot do. But there is a big reveal moment there that is really emotionally impactful for both of them. And that was also a very challenging scene to write. And I say challenging not in like a writer craft sense where like I was like having a hard time writing it. It was just like emotionally I was going through what the characters were going through at those times. And so it was like I was like sniveling as I'm sitting here alone in my office.
Oh no, you're like, I just gotta get through it.
I've just got to write this, right? So those were the more challenging scenes. I would say the scenes that were the most fun to write, I had a lot of fun writing the scene where Lucifer and Charlotte end up at Asmodeus's club. And for those who haven't read the series, Asmodeus is Lust, so he's Lucifer's brother. And I loved that scene just because I loved the whole like vibe of it. I love Asmodeus as a secondary character, and that's the first scene where he was really introduced. And so putting him on the page and like getting to meet him as a character was a lot of fun because I was like, oh yeah, he's great. I love him. And so I loved him as a secondary character, and it really gets the tension in the series, like the sexual tension between Charlotte and Lucifer gets dialed up to 10 in that scene. And there's character art of it for those who are like interested. If you like click over to my Instagram, there's some amazing character art by Lauren Boyle of that particular scene. But yeah, it was like I had so much fun writing that one. Yeah.
That's so funny because it's always exciting. At least I felt excited whenever we were introduced to each new like sibling, each new
Mhm.
sin, because it was just like, oh, okay, what's going on with him? What's going on with him? And Lust, he was just like a shit stirrer, and I
Yes.
loved it because he was like, you know what this is gonna, how this is gonna go down, Lucifer,
Yep.
and Charlotte's like, what? Like,
Yeah, like Lust is really the best way to describe him to readers is he's like the unapologetic playboy that you cannot help but love. And he just
yep.
knows it and he owns it and he's just gonna live his life that way.
I know, right? Whether platonic or not, I would love to just like him be my friend because I it would just be like so fun and entertaining and be like, okay, that's just so it's like the guilty pleasure of it. That's exactly
Yes.
what it is. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
That's so funny.
I will say, like, I play with his character a lot more in Wicked Believer, and he's a lot of fun.
What do you hope readers get out of Original Sinner?
Oh, that's a hard question to answer because I feel as a writer, like, I want readers to be able to take whatever they need away from it, which is going to be different things for every reader, I think. But
Yeah.
ultimately, I will say that if you read Original Sinner and you miss the very like the very heavily feminist, very anti-capitalist, very politically charged themes in it, you're probably reading it wrong.
If you're just like clutching your pearls, oh my god, what is this?
Yeah.
No, there's messages in there. There's undertones there.
Yes,
There's
there is
yeah.
definitely messages and undertones that are meant to be taken away, and ones that a lot of people will find very controversial. But I will say that probably the people who would find it controversial are probably not reading this series.
Maybe they just aren't your audience. Maybe they just aren't your audience, and I assume you've already accepted that.
Yes,
You're
yes.
already like,
I have very much accepted that, and I will say this is just an offhanded thing. When the book first came out and my publisher started like running ads, we had a couple people comment on some of the ads were like they were like this book is of the devil, and I was like I think you missed the point.
"Yeah, it is."
About Lucifer, right? Like, I was like, yeah, okay. And so it was just I had a moment when I told my writer friends who like as I was looking this at this because like I was traveling for the book signings at the time that this comment popped up and I was like I've made it because I've pissed off the Jesus people.
That's how you know.
Yes,
That's how you know. That's so funny. You're like, "I've made it. I made it to the Jesus people. I've made it."
yes, right, yeah,
That's so funny. I love that. That's a bar, that's a milestone that you didn't know that
yeah,
was gonna be it.
yeah.
That's hilarious.
Well,
Yeah,
especially
you know when you pissed off certain people, you know that you've gotten your reach out there.
yes, yeah. And especially in the culture of kind of book banning that like the book community in general is dealing with right now, I'm like if somebody's like saying that they don't like my book because of the very controversial or explicit content, I'm like, okay, you're not my audience. Keep going.
Yeah, yeah, that's okay, and that's okay. This
Yes.
book is not for you, and that's okay,
Yep.
right? Like, it's just
Exactly.
being real, but then that's what I love about the book community because it's I feel like so many of us, even authors and readers, who are like, "That's okay," but then those readers who are having a problem with it, they're like, "No, it's not okay. Like, you can't have this book out there because of this, that, and the other," and it's so much of the book community is we're like, I need it's just whose voices are louder. Because I'm always like I said before, it's like I'm not into dark romance, but I was so appreciative of the opportunity to read your book because I'm like, no, this was fun. This was sexy and cool and funny and
Oh, thank
and
you.
fun to read. And it's entertaining and it's also yeah, those undertones that we talked about. Yeah, there's you have to make a point and because it comes from like your own personal experiences to an extent, it's like you're feeding yourself and it's no, you come from a place of authenticity and that's you look past the smut, look past the dark. Oh my god, we're supposed to sympathize with the seven deadly sins. It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
why not? what? Aren't we all multidimensional, right? That's what it's like. And I don't know if it's rose-colored glasses for me, but I just have a tendency to like just be open-minded. But I'm just like, no, if that's your thing and if that gets your socks off, like I'm not gonna yuck your yum.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna kink shame you. I'm just gonna be like, you know what? It's not my thing, but that's okay. That's okay. That it's your thing. It's like that's really all like at the end of the day, that's like the basic of it. It's like the basic of it.
Exactly, right? Like this book is definitely for like open-minded readers who are like, I don't judge. And that's how I am as a reader and in my own life, right? Is that I'm not going to judge you as long as you're not like hurting anybody who has not agreed to be hurt, right? Like it doesn't bother me, right? And so it may not be my thing, but I will just move on with my life, right? Like,
Yeah, it really doesn't cost you anything to just okay, read the synopsis or read the commentary, have your opinion and decide that's not for me and move on. Like it takes
yes.
nothing to do that. It takes almost nothing to do that. And that's why I noticed that book readers, bookstagrammers do like straight up have opinions and are loud about their opinions, and it's just that's coming back to my opinion earlier about no, I love that people are pushed back on that because that's not what we're here for. We're not here to shame, we're not here to yuck on your yum. It's like we already have people coming at us for enjoying intimate scenes where women are having consent and they're exploring their sexuality in a safe space. We're already having people coming at us for that. We don't need people in our own community to come at us for that. It's not,
Yes, exactly.
and it just reminds me of again, not being too political, but it's just like women who's not a girl's girl. You know,
Yeah.
who's like women, you're fighting our own battles. You're fighting their battles for them.
Mhm.
When it's just like they don't consider you part of them. It's just wake up. It's like just it doesn't take again, it's just like you feel strongly about something, your opinion is not going to change. You being as loud about nobody should read this book, it's going to have the opposite effect because then people are going to be like, oh, why shouldn't I read this book?
Yes. There is a popular presenter in the book community named Becca Syme, and she's told this story about one of her clients a few times. And so I'm echoing this back. And she said this client said to her, if I had known the number of 1-star reviews it was going to take to get me to #1 on Amazon, right? I would have welcomed them a lot more frequently, right? Because to figure out who your audience is, you have to know who they are not, right? And so if you are somebody who is very like not open-minded, you don't love on-page sex scenes, you don't like the idea of a morally gray hero or characters, and you don't want to read about spicy BDSM, this is not the series for you, right?
And it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. Like you don't need to go hating on or shaming people for if that's what they enjoy.
Yes.
And that's what keeps them going. And I got into a conversation about another author, a romance author about this where it's, oh, people are saying, oh, smut is porn. And I'm like, for me personally, I don't think it's shameful for men to go to porn for whatever they need. It's just it becomes problematic when it's don't use that as a guideline for
Yeah. For how
and
real
again,
women
like, yeah,
are.
okay,
Yeah.
there's an argument to be made where, okay, if women, wives, partners, whatever,
Mhm.
they want to say, hey, what do you watch? What are you into? Maybe we can try that.
Yeah.
Again, it could be romance and smut could be an instructional manual for men, for the partners. But it's, I think I was joking around where it's not just the sex scenes, but like everything leading up to that. You got to read the whole thing. Like you got to see the swoon worthy moments and you got to see the build up and the tension and the pining to see like why women are like just so feral for some of these men, these fictional men. It's just you gotta instead of shaming them, like if you're really mad about it, just educate yourself. I don't know, like there's an opportunity for discussion that doesn't have to include, oh my god, you're just reading porn. And it's yeah, why do you think I'm reading this intimate scene?
Yeah.
Because I'm not getting it somewhere else. I'm not okay, if you're being shamed for watching porn, can you think of like the specific reasons? It's like these women are being paid to be choked. It's be realistic here. It's like you're videotaping partners and people in certain situations. Whereas fictional, it's like dude, come on, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. Where if we take Charlotte for example, she has agency.
Mhm.
She has agency and she's making these choices. And even though it's like she finds in herself a situation that she didn't anticipate, she's still kind of owning it. She's still going about herself. Whereas if you're looking at the visual of it, I understand men are visual creatures and they like what they like, but it's also but there's just a difference. There's a difference, and as long as you can identify it and recognize it, and if you feel like talking about it, like there's a discussion, there's a conversation, there's an opportunity for conversation. It doesn't need to be like shameful unless you're like just salty that women are swooning over fictional men. They're not swooning over you. It's like what it's just dude, like you're like again, you're telling on yourselves if you're getting so upset about smut.
Yeah,
Like I don't
honestly, I think the people who do get so upset and love to call romance novels porn, for one, have probably never actually read a romance novel. And for two, these are the kinds of people who are going to take the attitude where they say anything that is loved by a large group of women is like problematic or
yeah.
not
Oh my god.
right. And
Yes.
like,
If men loved reading smut, it would not even
yeah,
it would be so much more forgiven. Like it would
exactly. Yeah, romance as a genre is as maligned as it is because it's a space for like women and other marginalized identities where they can just be and find joy and stories about their joy in a way that like we don't always get in the real world. And so people feel the
seriously.
need to attack that because it's very dangerous to like people of a different mindset. And I'll share, I made a thread on Threads the other day that said this, and I still stand by this, is that if you are a reader and you think the romance genre is not really feminist, you're reading it wrong.
Are you kidding me? Like 80% of publishing in like publishing industry is from women.
Yeah,
Women readers, like there's like women the publishing dollars.
yeah.
It's because of women who are reading. Men who read, they're not it's so funny because again going back to recommending books by to my male so my husband it's so funny when I recommended he loves dragons and so I knew it was like you got to read Fourth Wing.
Yeah,
And he introduced me to the Aragon series years ago and I of course that's a good series Aragon.
yes.
And so when I said I know you love dragons
You have
and I
to read
told him like you
this.
got to read this and it took him a while to get on it but he did and I was like just so you know I told him I was like there's some spice in there there's some open door scenes in there and so when he finally opened it you said there's some spiciness in here and I was like yeah he's all right he was just prepared himself for it.
Yeah,
I don't know if he's just yeah I don't know if he's just what do they call like a unicorn but he just got over it he was like expecting it and then he got over it it was funny because I'm like there are certain scenes where I'm like did you get to this yet? Did you get to this yet? And he's just, yeah, like they went to Pound Town, whatever. Like he doesn't,
yeah.
like he accepts it that he goes on. But then my cousin who he was reading, he's into the Brandon Sanderson, his Cosmere,
Mhm.
all of that. And it was funny because I was like drunk texting him and he was like, I need conversation. You need to start Stormlight. And so I did. I downloaded the audiobook and I was like, Steven, 45 hours audiobook. And I was like, if you're demanding 45 hours of my time, I'm going to demand 20 hours of your time.
Yeah,
Choose between Throne of Glass or Fourth Wing.
yeah,
And he chose Fourth Wing because of the hype around it and also because it's going to become like a television show and stuff like that.
yeah.
And so he's like, all right, Fourth Wing. And so he did. And he's legitimately, I don't know, it's just every time they're near each other, they're just like, they just want to fuck each other. He's like, all I hear about is, okay, you know what? I want to fuck you. I want to fuck you. Like it just sucks all the air out of the room. And I'm like, but there's so much more
That
to
you're
that
missing,
series than
yeah.
that. There's so much more.
Honest
And so I don't need 4 pages about how they're yearning for each other. And then his wife is, I want you to tell me how you're yearning for me. And I'm like, that's right. I'm like, so it just started that conversation, but it's so funny to see that differentiation of no, I don't need that, but it's totally different between male and female readers. And
well,
it's so funny to see that. It's so funny.
and it's so crazy to me when like people say that like there's like we see these articles circulating in like major publications that are calling poor Rebecca Yarros like the queen of dragons or
Dragon slut.
whatever. And I'm like,
It's like there's 5 pages, there's 5% in each book.
Yes, yeah, I saw a breakdown
It's
where
like
it was like
to put
5%
so
of
much
this.
work into this and just be yeah.
Yeah, I saw a breakdown where it was like, if this is 5% of the book. I'm like, 5%. This poor woman has written this really amazingly built world in this fantasy series, and all you can focus on is the
Seriously.
5% where they have sex. Which is just so ridiculous to me. Like the way that women are held to a
It
very different
seriously
standard
is.
than male writers. Game of Thrones can put all
Oh
the
my
like
god.
rape scenes at once, but like we can't have our consensual sex scenes. So, yeah.
It really seriously, it is. It's just, "Oh, dragon smut." You don't call George R. R. Martin dragon smut when it's literally the mother of dragons, her first sexual experiences with her arranged marriage was non-consensual, and it's
Yeah.
really? Yeah, no, I was one who I'm one of those people who are waiting for Winds of Winter.
Yeah.
I am still like I am a fan. I read the books and I had people come into me after certain seasons ended. They're like, "What happens? Wait, I need clarification." And I'm like, this is where it ends for us too. It was just like when the seasons surpass the books. And it's no, it's so crazy how just black and white people tend to be. And it's just you're focusing on this, but that just means that you aren't well read. It's just like you need to read more. And for me, it's just because I eat books like strawberries. So I'm like, I read so much where I'm like, I can I can gauge and I'm like, "No, I've seen this done better, and I've seen this done more respectfully, or I've seen this done." And I get it, like George R. R. Martin, he's like from a different generation, he's from a different readership. He has his reasons, and it's just yeah, in medieval times, yeah, it's the world, the purpose of the world. But that's like for Rebecca to be like releasing this shit in like the 2000s, the 2020s,
Yeah.
and she's up against these readers. But I feel like you can't have Harry Potter level fandom without getting some of this shit, you know, and
Yeah,
it's just
for sure.
she really is, and I actually interviewed her a few years ago for Fourth Wing before it came out, and it was fun and funny to see her blow up, like,
Yeah.
because she was just like it was just like a connection through Red Tower, because I that's like how I get a lot of these opportunities is from like publishers or
Yeah.
from PR agencies that they're connecting with, and so I treated it as, and I just remember, yeah, this was like a fucking fantastic book.
Yeah.
And then that's when, even when I got an arc of it, I told my husband, like, no, you're gonna really dig this book.
That's
And
good.
because it is like there's so much like exactly, you're exactly right, where she takes the time to build these connections and to tease the readers and to have this world figured out and just try to find a way to tell the story so that it's engaging and mysterious and serious and sexy. And it's
Yeah.
just like a like it's and I've never read any of her contemporary because I know that at heart a contemporary writer.
Yeah.
And when I interviewed her, she was like, "I was so scared of fantasy." She was like, "I was so scared of fantasy because she was so used to contemporary." So exactly like there's something to be said about like the comparison, and it's just so unfair.
Yeah.
And it's just, but you're absolutely right. It's like anything that women even a vast majority of women. There's a reason book talk exists. That's a reason why smut has blown up. There's a reason for it.
Yeah.
And like why are you guys shaming? Why don't you guys like try to figure it out? Like
Yeah.
it's just why are women going feral for fictional men? Maybe because men ain't shit sometimes. Like it's
Yes.
I love my husband. I love my husband and I appreciate how open he is despite growing up in a very traditional household with the father working parent. I totally agree how open-minded he is and how funny he could be, and I love messing with him sometimes. So it's I appreciate the men who can be open-minded, but it's just unfortunately they're not the loud ones.
Yeah.
You know, the loud ones are like, and unfortunately it's some women too. And it's just I know we got off on a tangent, but I love it. Where it's just yeah, exactly, you're right. That's okay if this is not for you, and
Yes.
that's why there's trigger warnings, and that's why I'm telling you now, so don't hate on me. It's just like you read at your own risk.
Yes,
It's
exactly. Yeah.
I love it. I know, like we went off. I want to respect our time. I feel like we could talk
Oh
forever.
yeah, yeah. We're having like I love chatting with you, so it's been great.
Oh, me too. No, I love it when the conversation just takes off on whatever. Like we talked about so many issues, and then we talked about SJM, and I love it.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for Charlotte? What advice do you have for Lucifer? And keep in mind first book.
Oh gosh.
Not how you already plan their story.
First book. Oh, so my advice to Lucifer would be to not be so scared of the vulnerable parts of yourself. He would roll his eyes and like totally not give a shit about anything I said to him. But that would be my advice to him, is not to be so scared of the vulnerable parts of himself. And then for Charlotte, I would say I want her to recognize that she has more power than she thinks she has.
That is solid advice. Because that's so fitting for both of them. But it's fitting for Charlotte because she's also, it just speaks to her, like, her journey.
Yeah,
She's still discovering it.
exactly.
It's, girl, you got, if you want, you can have Lucifer on his knees.
Exactly.
Like,
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, we would.
no one else would ever know about it, but you would know about
Yep,
it. It's
you
like,
would know. Yep. There, without giving too much away, there is a line at the start of, I can't remember the chapter number, but at the start of a chapter in book 2 in Wicked Believer, and it's Charlotte's point of view, and it says, "I am the reason the devil is nervous today." And I'm like, yeah, girl, yes, you are.
yes. I love that. I would love to say that. That's just, again, back to SJM. That reminds me of Manon. Whatever doesn't kill me better start running. I love it.
Yes.
I love it. I was the reason why he was nervous today. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I love it. I love it. So let's see. You've already played with this more officially. What can readers expect in the sequel?
Yeah, readers can expect all the sorts of things that made them fall in love with book 1. So there's plenty of fantasy, like magic elements going on. We've still got our billionaire Lucifer and the siblings causing all sorts of havoc and chaos. And all the spice and BDSM is still there. And we've amped it all up a notch and made the stakes higher, is what I would say.
Perfect. That's what we expect, right? It's okay. You guys have established that you're in it for each other. All right, time to get down to business. Like,
Exactly. And book 1 very much eases you into the world, right? Because even though we start out knowing that this is a world where Lucifer and the other 7 deadly sins exist, and there are these celebrities and they potentially have these powers, right? We're eased into it. Like, it feels very contemporary until we get into the second half of Original Sinner. But in Wicked Believer, all bets are off, right? Because the doors have been thrown open. We've seen some of Lucifer's power. We've seen what he and some of the siblings can do, and now it's like chaos is gonna ensue.
I know you managed to make a character where he's supposed to be feared, but I would still, like, I don't know, I would still check him out in a suit, you
Yeah.
know?
He has a few.
It's like I'm still a woman.
Right,
Like,
yeah. He has a few moments where he gets a little bit scarier in book 2, but we'd still admire the look of him for sure.
it's kind of a big bulldog, or a big pit bull or pig, like, scary dog, like he's soft for his owner, his
Yes,
person.
yeah.
Like, I love it. I love it. I love it. We all love it as we eat that shit up. Kait Ballenger, where can we find you online and on social media?
Yeah, so readers can find me at www.kateballenger.com. That's my website, and you can sign up for my newsletter there. And I do have Original Sinner bonus content with deleted scenes for anybody who signs up. So you can find me there. And
Yeah, we'll find you, we'll creep on you, all that good stuff. Perfect. Kate Ballinger, Original Sinner. That book is available now. So thank you so much for all your answers and for humoring me and my tangents and all that stuff. And if and when you're ready, either maybe it's not book 2, maybe it could be book 3, take your time. If you ever want to come back and talk about your work again, feel free. I'd love to chat again. And that was Kait Ballenger talking about her book, Original Sinner. That book is available now. Check out the show notes where you can find links to purchase the book and follow Kait online and on social media. While you're perusing social media, please find Cantina Book Club either on TikTok, Instagram, Threads, Facebook, Twitter/X, YouTube especially. I'm building up the YouTube channel, so I would be so excited for you guys to check out all the short interview clips and recipes, drink recipes that I do, and the book review videos, all that good stuff. And if you need book recommendations, check out cantinabookclub.com. I'm always sharing book reviews on all sorts of genres. If you find a book that you like and you want that author to succeed, as we all should, head on over to Goodreads and Amazon and drop them a rating and review. It really does help them out. And as always, thank you guys so much for listening.